a game that has not happened since 2011. You said you thought you might have been on the call. So this is Texas at Texas A&M. I went back and I listened to a little bit. I know I heard Jesse and Reese, but I don't think I heard you actually.
Okay.
So I couldn't remember that. But so Texas wins on a walk-off field goal in
Jesse
the game.
talks so much, I very rarely get to talk. Anyways, love you, JPP.
So this is obviously the winner of this game goes to the SEC championship. I've seen sort of notes that it's the most expensive ticket that we've seen for a long time. By the way, do you remember who were the quarterbacks for Texas and Texas A&M in 2011?
Oh, gosh. I don't, and I'm not going to sit here and waste everybody's time.
Yeah. Colt McCoy and Ryan Tannehill in the game. And then the winning kick was made by Justin Tucker. So
wow.
Who's probably
He's pretty good.
maybe won some fantasy championships for some people with
You're not winning fantasy championships because of your kicker, but yeah, I hear you, Brent. Yes.
But yes, this game is big in terms of who goes to the SEC championship. And, you got Texas A&M that's sitting there, I think, at 20, still has a shot to be in the playoff.
Yeah, and fresh off a loss, they're not a team that is in a great position to make the playoffs. They need this. They're at home, which matters. Obviously, that's a big deal. Kyle Field, we've talked about that a bunch, is a great atmosphere, one of the best in college football, some of the cooler traditions in college football. A&M, the more I look at them, man, I think losing Moss hurt them, like running the football. And they've been a different team because I watched them last week against Auburn, very pass happy. And I don't think they have a guy that is going to tote the rock a bunch in the game that you feel comfortable, that's going to break tackles and make a bunch of plays for you. And because of that, I think the running game suffered because they never were the big passing attack team. That's not what they were. Reed's been really, really good. I think his legs in a one-game situation is going to be a big deal, and I think you can run him more, and you'll probably see him run more. I always worry about him because he's so small. But, Brent, Texas defense is really good. Like, we can talk about Texas and their offense and Sark, and that's what we usually talked about, and that's what we talked about, a lot in the past. But I think their defense is the reason why they've been so good at every level, so consistent. Don't give up big plays, rushes the quarterback pretty well, turns the football over. Like they're a really good defense, and A&M is very one-dimensional. And I don't know what they do great right now, Brent. I don't think they do anything they're not running it great. They're not throwing it great. So they're going to have to find some offense and some way to move the football consistently.
And get help from their defense, which the defensive line is the strength of their team.
Yep.
And it has to show up in a big way in this game. You have to tackle well. By the way, they have one of the worst tackling grades in the SEC as a team because I think you're going to have struggles, and you might get some first downs because of Reed's legs, but there's going to be some struggles offensively, and you're going to have inconsistencies offensively. So can you keep Texas, much like the Arkansas game, for the Texas-Arkansas game, where can you hang around, and then make a play and use the crowd, use the environment to your advantage. But look at what Auburn did to them last week down the field. Peyton Thorne on 20-plus yard throws, 5 of 8, 213, 2 touchdowns. But that's not really what Texas does, and it's not really what Ewers has done.
With Ewers in the game. With Manning, they've been more bombs away. Bond has been banged up. And here's the thing, if you're an A&M fan, whether you like it or not, and y'all are going to hear me say this, and you've heard me say it all year because it matters. The home crowd helps the defense. It is a enormous help for snap count purposes. Texas's best thing right now, honestly, it's not the big play. They've got to run the football. And they had two backs basically get over 100 a week ago, which is a great sign. That is a great sign for them because if you get in drop back mode, just like against Texas defense, every one of A&M, I've said this about 3 teams so far this season, and I'll say it about this team. This is the third team. Every one of A&M's got defensive linemen are getting drafted. Every single one of them are going to go play in the NFL. Like they are very talented. They can get after the quarterback. They're physical enough to stop the run. So Blue and Wisner will be huge. Ears, when you pressure him, Brent, becomes extremely human. Like he wants to get the ball out of his hands. When you move him off his spot, he wants to throw the football. But when you get to him and hit him as he's throwing it, you've seen plenty of examples this season where that he's going to struggle. I think this is a low-scoring game. I really do. I don't trust either offense to really get going against really good defenses. But I lean Texas because I think their defense is more complete. Texas's secondary is really, really good. A&M's secondary scares me, and their lack of tackling, like you talked about, and big plays that they will give up.
Yeah, I do think Texas wins the game. Like Sean in the chat, there's 21-17. I think, or it's 21-17 A&M. I would probably go flip it around the other way, but yeah, like we said, and look at all this, these sort of underdogs, especially double-digit underdogs in SEC home games, doing very well this year. Very well this year. So
hey, good question. Real question. This question revolves around this game. So Nate, he said, what happens if A&M beats Texas and then loses the SEC title game? They're out. Yep. Like, that's 4 losses.
They're watching.
Yeah, I mean, they already have 3, so they're already there in that 3-loss situation, which is really, really tough. So I think A&M would be out. Interesting thing for Texas is with all the losses, and if they lose this game and now have 2 losses against the only 2 good teams they played, their next best win is Florida at 6-5 and Vandy. Like, those are the 2, kind of wins for Texas. I think Texas could be in some trouble in that situation, but obviously with the lack of 2 lost teams and then being at 3, I still think they actually might be in the college football playoff. They're very much in the mix. It's not a given that they would be out, but I think it would be a bubble situation. And but when you spin it to the SEC championship game, if you're Georgia, who do you want to play? You want to play A&M or you want to play Texas?
I'd rather play A&M just because I know how good Texas defense played against me, and that element is probably of the 4 elements in those 2 teams is the most elite of those 4 elements.
And I think one thing though I think about if you're a Georgia guy is if you lose to Texas and you beat them, I think they're still in the college football playoff.
Yes,
I think you split, so it really doesn't. We're not going to hold that against you playing an extra game when you did beat that team one time. I think Georgia would be the first 3-loss team in the mix because they played an extra week and they lost to a team that they beat. So they beat them and they lost to them. So I think that would matter.